Morning guys, so today is the big day. uh, Driving the Mahindra XUV 700, multiple variants to choose from, of course. So without further ado, let's do it. And today happens to be the Indian Independence Day as well, so great start to the morning. Being the last of the 70 media vehicles, we couldn't make it in time for the flag hoisting. But our detailed review of the car is out now, and in this video I'll answer most of the FAQs about the XUV 700. Is the design polarizing? Well, I think it is. It certainly looks much better in the flesh than what we saw in the leaked photos. Certainly looks much better than what probably you are seeing on video, probably what you've seen on the photos that I have put on Instagram. So yes, I quite like it. I like the front end, not so much the rear end. I think the rear end just doesn't have the same kind of harmony with the front. The front looks nice and fine, a bit Renault inspired, yes, with those fine detailing that you see in the shape, the C motif that you see in the headlights, the fine detailing that you see in the headlights. It's not mimicked the same way at the rear. I think the strokes are a little too thick and it somehow loses that harmony is what I think. So the rear certainly doesn't look very appealing to me, but the front certainly does. But it may not be to everyone's taste. Not everyone wants an aggressive looking vehicle. So if you are one of those, probably this car will not appeal to you. And it's the same thing that we faced with the XUV 500 as well, right? Not everyone liked that particular design. Some people thought it was a little too aggressive. Some people thought, well, there was quite a bit of mismatch. So I don't think there is that bit of a mismatch here. Like I said, only the strokes for the detailing are a little thicker on the tail compared to the front. That's the only harmony I would have liked. Otherwise, the lines are really good. The cuts and creases aren't, they've not gone overboard with it. And that's what I like about it. It's a very refined design, and I think in the flesh it looks the best. So if you are still on the fence, if you are still not decided on whether you like the design or not, certainly go take a look at it in the flesh and maybe then decide. Don't make that judgment just looking at the photos or the videos. Well, I think it's a damn good looking interior. I really like this big panoramic roof, extends all the way up to the second row, almost goes to the third row, but yeah, it doesn't, but it still fills up the cabin with a lot of nice natural light. It's a very airy feeling cabin, so the interior design is really good. You get this white upholstery. It's going to get soiled very easily, of course. There's something that we talked about in the Safari as well. But not a big matter of concern if you are going to be taking the car for preventive cleanup every now and then it should keep looking good. Also, if you look at the dashboard, I think the dashboard looks really good. They have very nicely designed and laid out the dashboard elements compared to the XUV 500. I think it certainly looks better, and that's because the dashboard doesn't feel too overpowering in any way. The colors are very sober, they are very nice. The materials are quite nice too. There are a few corners that have been cut here and there, but not something that you're going to be feeling when you're interacting with different elements in the car. But overall, I think it's a very nice looking dashboard. It looks very upmarket, very premium. And unfortunately, the only thing that it leaves you wanting for is ambient lighting. Unfortunately, they do not have ambient lighting in this cabin. They certainly should have done that, especially if you look at how the contouring is. They could have easily managed to integrate ambient lighting, and they haven't. It would have really lifted the mood of this cabin even more. They should have done that. There are some sub 4 meter vehicles that are doing that now, so I think they should have certainly included ambient lighting, but they haven't. But overall, it's a good looking design. It's functional as well. There are a lot of storage spaces here and there, So not something that I would really complain about. Right, so in terms of the colors, there is this blue, which is going to be the primary communication color for the XUV700. It's very German. It's very much like what we've seen on the Tiguan or the GLS or even the MG Hector Plus for that matter. The Hector Plus did for a reason. They wanted to look premium like the German luxury cars. Something similar going on with the XUV700 as well in this particular color. In fact, if you look at the tail light, the detailing of the tail light from afar looks very much like the detailing that we've seen on the Tiguan, the Volkswagen Tiguan. So yeah, there is a bit of that German connection here is what I think. This color, not a big fan of it. I don't like it so much on this particular car. Some of you actually do like this color. It looks very good to you. So take your pick. I think the other blue, I think that looks more elegant. It looks much better on this particular car. It looks almost black at night, but during the day you can see that blue tinge and I think it looks quite nice, very elegant. But the color I really like the most is the red. I think it looks sporty. It brings out the tighter lines of the XUV700 very nicely, and I think that's the best color for the XUV700. Now that red is not as dark as the maroonish shade that we've seen on the XUV500. The red is a lot sportier. It looks a lot brighter, and like I said, I think that's the one that I would pick. There's also a grey that they've shown us, a silverish grey. It's got a nice metallic tinge to it. So that's another good color if you want something sober. So the navy blue and that grey are the sober colors. This is the one that's quite a bright blue, and then you have the bright red as well. I think they'll also do a white. The white is a very popular color for the XUV500, so I'm sure they'll not miss out on that with the 700. I think they will do that as well. Will they do a dual tone combination? I don't know. Would you do it? Probably you would. Maybe a white with a black roof. The red with a black roof would also look good. So yeah, I think those combinations will start coming out. Even if the company doesn't do it, I'm sure a lot of customers will. So white, I think they'll definitely do. Then you have the dark editions of the Harrier. There would be a dark edition of the Safari as well. So I think Mahindra will not want to miss out on the black. So they will certainly do black. You also have Pratap Bose now coming to Mahindra. So I'm sure he'll bring some colors to this lineup for sure. So the palette could expand. But right now, I don't know how big the palette is, how many color options. We have only been shown for the grey, the navy blue, this blue and the red. Yes, she is bigger than the XUV500, has a longer wheelbase as well, has got better space management as well, because this is a newer platform. This is new generation packaging as well, so it has certainly got better space in all the three rows compared to the XUV500. For those of you who asked about the platform, yes, this is all new here. Now the curve weight, for some of you asked us, it's around the 1620 kg mark, give or take a few depending on the variant, depending on the trim levels, but it's around that 1620 kg ballpark for the petrol and diesel variants. That's the only number that they've given us. So that's all that I can share with you right now. But what they've told us is that this new platform brings to the table a lot more high strength steels, ultra high strength steels as well. It's got new bonding technologies as well. So overall, the safety of the platform has also improved, in terms of the chassis, in terms of the structure. So this is a newer platform for those of you who are asking. And yes, it also feels light on its feet compared to the XUV500. They've also done some amazing stuff to the suspension, but everything that I want to talk about, the ride, the handling and the performance, it's up in my review. So definitely do check the review on Overdrive. Well, speaking of powertrain options, there are three engine options. There is a 155 PS diesel, very similar to the XUV500, that can be only had in the base variants, that's the MX variants. You can then have the petrol engine. It's a 200 PS petrol engine. You can have it in the MX as well as the AX variants. And then you have the range-topping diesel, which is a 185 PS diesel, again a 2.2 liter MHawk engine. But that can only be had with the AX variants, which are all the range-topping variants. And now you can also have both these engines, the 200 PS petrol as well as the 185 PS diesel, in a manual as well as an automatic transmission option. Now, what automatics are these? Well, these are torque converters. These are from Aisin. And as far as all-wheel drive goes, you can only have it with the diesel automatic. You cannot have it with any other engine or gearbox configuration. It can only be had with the diesel automatic. There's no 4x4. It's only an all-wheel drive. And in either of the configurations, these engines are only feeding power and torque to the front wheels. When you engage the all-wheel drive mode, that's the only time when torque will be sent to the rear wheels. Otherwise, these are predominantly front wheel driven, front engined vehicles. Well, right now they have given us pricing for a limited number of variants, but all the info about the variants, the number of variants, the pricing per variant, everything is going to be revealed closer to the festive season is what they're telling us. They're still holding their cards close to their chest. They're also taking our feedback on the features, on how we think the features should be laid out between different variants and stuff like that. So they're still sort of finalizing those kind of things. That is the reason why we don't have an accurate representation of the pricing, or we don't know where the top of the line variant is going to go, because like we told you, there are primarily two different types. One is the MX range of variants, which is slightly on the lower spec, and then there is the AX range of variants, which is the Adrenox powered variants. Now the Adrenox is essentially the fancier hardware, the better electronic architecture, the ADAS, so it's all the technology packs basically. The AX is the more feature loaded range of variants, and within that again there are three levels. There is the AX3, the AX5 and the AX7. This number has nothing to do with the number of seats in the car. You will have a 5-seater variant, you will have a 7-seater variant option as well. So yeah, 2-row, 3-row shouldn't be a problem. There's going to be no 6-seater at the moment. There are going to be no captain seats in the middle row. So that's basically the breakup of all these main variants. And then you can see the L and the T. Some of you also asked us what those mean. Now Mahindra hasn't told us exactly what it means, but I think, or I'm guessing, L stands for luxury, which will be more luxury oriented features. This is a luxury pack. So if you choose the luxury pack, you'll probably get a few more luxury oriented features. Maybe the wood inlays, maybe something to do with upholstery. I don't know yet. The T to me looks like a technology pack, which will essentially be the ADAS, the Alexa capability, all these technical features will be added to that particular variant. So there'll be two of these packs. So the top of the line AX7 variant can be had with the luxury pack or with the technology pack. I think they'll do something similar with the AX5 as well. So that's my guess as of now. All of that will be clear closer to the actual launch of all the variants. What they've done right now is only announce the pricing for a few variants. All of that will be closer to the launch, which happens around the festive season. Are paddle shifters the only thing that are missing? Yes, paddle shifters and also ventilated seats. No ventilated seats on this car on any of the trims, and that's a bit of a downer, because when you have a car that is so feature loaded, ventilated seats should have been included. At least the perforation is there on the upholstery. So I hope at a later stage they do introduce the ventilation function as well, but as of now there is no ventilated seats on either of the trims. So no, you do not get two exhaust canisters like you had on the XV500. Be it the petrol variants or the diesel variants, you do not get two exhaust canisters on either of them. And what I really don't like is that little final piece of the tailpipe, it is visible all the time. Especially if you're in a lower car, you can always see it, and that looks a bit ungainly to me. I think they should have routed it in a way that it wasn't visible. It looks a little bit messy there with the arms of the suspension, and then that exhaust pipe routed through there with all that insulation material on it. It just looks a bit ungainly. I hope they are able to make it a little bit more presentable, but I doubt they'll make any changes now. Well, it's certainly longer than the Safari. It's also got a longer wheelbase than the Safari, but visually it clearly doesn't look much bigger than the Safari. The Safari looks a lot bigger, a lot bulkier. So if you want that very big looking SUV from this particular price bracket, the Safari is still one of the biggest that you can buy in this bracket, in this segment. No, the lumbar support is not removed. This is the little knob that you get for adjusting the lumbar support. I don't know if you can make it out in the video, but you can adjust the lumbar support, and you can adjust it by a fair degree, in fact, quite comfortable. Well, it's got a multi-link rear suspension, and this suspension configuration is standard across the range. No, there is no reach adjustability for the second row seats. You can only recline the back by a certain degree, and only the 40 side of the seat can tumble for you to be able to get back into the third row. No, unfortunately, we did not see all the variants. The only variants that they brought to this particular media drive were the top of the line AX7s. But like I said, there is the L and the T, which I think is a luxury pack and a technology pack. So there were a few that were the AX7Ls and some of them that were the AX7Ts. But honestly, I couldn't see much of a difference between either one of them. So like I said, I think they're still deciding on the final packs, on the final feature listing, and that is the reason why they've not gone all out with the pricing or in terms of the announcement, and will come at a later date. But yes, to answer your question, these are the only variants that we have seen and driven. So how have they managed this kind of pricing? This is something that I've answered in my review, but to just give you a quick synopsis, yes, they have cut a few corners here and there, and then you add that with the economies of scale that Mahindra can manage in this segment, and you get your answer. This is how essentially they've got their suppliers to reach a particular price point, to be able to deliver components at a particular price point, and all of that has been passed on to the customer as well, and that is where you get this kind of pricing. But just as my job as a reviewer, I'm going to point out a few things where I have realized that okay, they have cut costs here, they have saved a few bucks here. I'm going to identify those, but honestly, none of these are really going to matter to you as a user, because these are not things that you are going to be interacting with too often. You look at these little unfinished edges on the panel. So these are scratchy plastics, and this is certainly not very upmarket, but something that you will only realize if you really look at it. And again, these are pre-production prototypes. Probably on the final versions, these rough edges would be ironed out, they would be much cleaner. Well, so you can see how the linkages are exposed, how there's exposed cabling here and there. Similarly, you can see exposed cabling behind the ADAS radar unit, and that's very easy for someone to quickly reach and cut off if you really have to. Again, I hope this is just a prototype issue. Another intelligent bit, this tailgate that you see is not made out of metal. It is made out of composite plastics. Nothing wrong about it. It's still a very tough material, so safety wise there should be no concern. But yes, it is not metal, it is all composite plastics, and it is very light. There is no power tailgate either, even on the top spec variants. And if you look at these little levers, panels, the plastics used for these little cup holders here, you know that they are a bit low rent. Even these fins and these panels, you know, they are a bit low rent compared to the common ones that you would touch in the front, in the first row. And if you look at parking sensors, you only get 2 parking sensors at the rear, no parking sensors on the side. Even the integration of the reversing camera is not very well thought out. It's not very cleanly integrated. It probably has saved a little bit of cost there too. You do get a 360-degree camera setup, so you have these cameras here in the wing mirrors and also at the front. But again, this is not going to be a very expensive setup from the supplier's end, because when I engage reverse gear, so that's the 360-degree camera, you also get dynamic guidelines, but the camera feed, by the time it reaches your screen, there is quite a bit of delay, quite a bit. For example, if I were to reverse now, there is quite a bit of delay. You can see the vehicle started moving before it actually showed you the movement on the screen. So there is quite a bit of delay, and sometimes when you're playing music, sometimes when you're playing some of the higher end and sometimes when you're playing music, when there is more load on this infotainment, let's put it that way, the lag is even more pronounced. So again, I hope these are just teething issues, but Yeah, so these are of course not the top of the line components when it comes to reversing cameras or 360-degree cameras. So yes, it has cut a few corners here and there, cut costs here and there, but it doesn't leave you with the feeling that, you know, this is a cheap product or this product has a lot of low cost engineering and you're making some sort of a compromise. No, it doesn't feel like that, and that's a very good thing that Mahindra has done. They've done all of this in areas, in things, in components where you're not going to be interacting too much with it. All your common interaction points feel a lot more premium, and that is the reason why this car leaves you with the feeling that you're actually getting a lot more premium features at a much lower price than you expected, and that is what made everyone go wow about it, right? And that is exactly what Mahindra was targeting with this. So yes, there has been cost cutting, but nothing that should ideally affect you, because in terms of safety, in terms of features, including stuff like ADAS, it's all there on this car, and that is what leaves me impressed. Well, the doorknob certainly doesn't feel flimsy at all. It feels robust, it feels nice and thick, it even looks thick. So, you know, even the movement of it, the motion, not a problem at all. So I don't think it's flimsy. I don't think it's going to break that easily. But yes, I have talked about this in my review. I am a little concerned because, you know, these are heavy doors. Sometimes they don't close in one go, and then people tend to give it a firmer push, and they usually do it at the door handle. And that is the only bit that I'm a little bit worried about. Yes, it will replace the XUV500. In fact, this is introductory pricing. That is why some of you also pointed out that the pricing is actually lower than the XUV500. But the 500 will, I think, go out. It will be phased out completely by the end of this year, depending on the stocks that are remaining with the dealers. So if you still prefer the 500 for some reason over the 700, you know, make your purchase right away. But it will be phased out later this year, and the 700 will be the only top of the line vehicle that they'll have. I'm not sure about the Altura's G4 either. It will be the XUV700 that Mahindra will now concentrate all of its efforts on in this particular price bracket. You're looking at anywhere between 15 to 30 lakh rupees. This is all that Mahindra is going to be talking about. Well, which is the best variant? I think I've answered that in my review. Definitely do check out the review. I've also shown you the third row space. I've also talked about the second row comfort. I've spoken about how the engines feel, the top of the line diesel and the 200 PS petrol. We did not get a chance to drive the 155 PS diesel, that's the base model. We haven't driven that, but I will tell you about the other two engines, how the gearboxes feel. We have driven the different variants, so definitely do check out my review. The review is out on youtube.com/odmag. If you would rather prefer to read the review, our editor Bertrand D'Souza's review is already out on overdrive.in, so definitely do check them out. The links are in the description below. Well, that's it for now. I hope I've answered all your queries. I hope you found this information valuable enough. If you did, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and do share this video with your friends and family. Thank you so much for watching.